Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to get started with the Dispatchers Roundtable, and this is going to be round 21. But, as always, a word from our sponsors.
At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Rapid Deploy is the CAD of the future. It's cloud-aided dispatch, not dinosaur computer-aided dispatch that looks like it was built in the 1980s. Rapid Deploy's cloud-native CAD, mapping, and analytics increase situational awareness for call takers, dispatchers, and responders. Rapid Deploy is taking public safety by storm. It's fast and easy to deploy, with implementation in days, not years. It's affordable for all agencies of all sizes. Rich in features, functionality, and data. It's also reliable and secure as we use Microsoft Azure Government Cloud. Go to rapiddeploy.com to learn more.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
All right. Welcome back once again. This is Ricardo of the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to get started with the Dispatchers Roundtable, round 21. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy, and man, there is a lot going on. We are, a week? 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks after Dare to Be Great 3, and what we're going to be talking about today actually is from a session that was presented during that time. I believe it was on the first official day was when this was actually the closing session for that day. And, some stuff went down, which we're going to be getting into, but this is an episode that you do not want to miss. This is going to be excellent. And I thank you all for being here with us. Big shout out to the patrons. As always, I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you, and especially those who are watching, supporting, sharing, all of it. Thank you so very much. It's good to be back. I try to do the Dispatchers Roundtable 2 Wednesdays a month, and with the last few that was been going on with the virtual events, I was unable to get to. I think I maybe got one or so in May. I don't know. The days are all meshing together, but now we're in June, and June is almost done. Holy hell. It's gone really fast. But again, thank you all for being here and joining us. And as we go through some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, and with my panelists that are going to be on, have your questions ready. Make sure to put them out there, and we will be answering them as well as we go through this. And I was going to mention the title here for the session that was going on, but I'm just going to go ahead and first bring on my guests, and then we might play a little video and kind of talk about some stuff before we get started. So my first guest today is going to be Melissa Alterio, and she is the director of Cobb County 911 out of Georgia. Hey.
Hi.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So how are things working out? You made your change. It's been a little busy.
Major change. I have never been so busy, I think, in my entire career, like morning till night, but it's awesome. I have awesome dispatchers, a wonderful team. But it is busy. Whew.
Oh man.
I'll settle down, but it's all good stuff.
Well, that's good. I am happy to have you here. Happy to have you back. And next guest is going to be Mr. Jeremy DeMar, who is the executive director of MVECC. I'm glad you put that on there because it's always a mouthful. And he's out of New Jersey, so here he is. What is up?
Hello, everybody. Ricardo, Melissa, and everyone. Good to be here.
I'm feeling a strange sense of deja vu.
Yeah. Ricardo, you want to tell everybody about the tire?
Yes. So everyone who is on right now, if we could also, I want to know where everyone is at. So I'm going to put this in the comments because then you can also put this out there when you are watching it on demand. But roll call. Where are you watching from? Where are you out of? And, just a big welcome. Please make sure to throw in some reactions for us, please. And also share this broadcast, whether it be on your feed or your favorite dispatch page. We'd appreciate it more than you know, as we are able to bring in more thank you all to join us as we're getting through all of this here. So let's jump right in. And we're Jeremy mentions the tie, maybe, and Melissa's talking about deja vu a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and play a little clip here. Okay. I'm going to play a little clip really quick. And because I want to set this up as we're going into this. Now, what I do want to say right off the bat for everybody who is watching right now, the session that Melissa and Jeremy did for Dare to Be Great 3, which was an excellent one, is called Cultivating a Positive Organizational Culture, a Director's Perspective. And everything was going so well. And then, sometimes things just happen, right? In 911, you can't predict things. Anything can happen in 911.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add this to the stream here because I want everyone to see this. And again, it's just going to be a short little clip. And I see more people coming in here. So this is awesome. We got some people from Kansas, Illinois, West Virginia. Awesome. Excellent. Welcome. And so here we go. I'm gonna play this.
And you're going to have a real problem.
I'm still.
Okay, hold on a minute. Really quick before we continue. It's funny that it started right there, right? Like right before things went to hell. Jeremy says, and then we're going to have a problem. And
he jinxed us. He totally jinxed us.
Oh, that is perfect. Okay, let's continue. Here we go.
Waiting for the swear word. You said you had to put money in the swear jar. Where is the swear word?
Jeremy is taking off, going around.
Did you lose you, Jeremy? You did. All right, Jeremy might be experiencing some technical difficulties, so I'm going to expand on that a little bit and say,
Okay, so before we go ahead, because Jeremy's about to explain what just happened, I want to go to Melissa really quick, because on your end, you never saw him get up, right?
I did not. That's when I said, did we lose you, Jeremy? Because I just had like the circle of death. Like it was just a frozen little circle. And yes. I heard him talking, and then there was nothing. So that was the first time I saw that. It's hysterical.
Yeah, and so it was interesting because when I'm sitting here and I'm watching this go down, and I saw him get up and go, and I thought, oh wait, what's going on? And I remember I was sitting back on my laptop getting stuff prepared for the next speakers and marketing stuff to go out, and I jumped up right away, and I was like, something is going down. So I think Jeremy's about to explain here on this clip really quick. So hold on.
Stop. We just lost our radios. I got to step away just for a second.
Okay.
Just for a second.
And there's leadership right there, folks. So I read a book recently also called The Inspirational Leader, and I'm going to read a little short excerpt from it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm thinking I'm having a total oh crap moment right there. Leadership 101, I failed at it because I totally froze. I was like, what do I do? Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Oh, Melissa, Ricardo and I were going to wait until the session tonight to tell you that actually that whole thing was staged. We just wanted to see how you would perform under fire.
That would not surprise me from you two. Not at all.
And you did very well. Well done.
Good job.
what I do want to mention here, because I didn't point it out really quick. So look at what Jeremy is wearing right now. Okay. The shirt, the tie. Now let me bring the stream back up and let me because he's gone at that moment. But I'm gonna go back here really quick. Right there.
Let's
Now,
see if I can do the same pose. There we go. Same pose.
It looks as though Jeremy is wearing the same outfit. Now the shirt is different, it's a different color, it's a little darker, but I'm pretty sure that's the same tie.
It is.
Perfect. That is excellent. I love that this happened. So cool.
I'm so glad.
You know what? We ended up jumping right in. I didn't even play the intro song for the roundtable, but that's fine. We're good to go. We're going to continue because this has already been good. And I'm excited to have the both of you here because for those who are watching and everything, this is the session that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be discussing this, cultivating a positive organizational culture coming from both Melissa and Jeremy. Now, as we get started, for those who are jumping in, and Sarah, what is going on? Good evening. And we've got Myth here, morning from North California. Everyone's joining in here. So what I want to do is kind of go off of these slides a bit and, really talk through this with all of you. So if we could, Melissa, if we can start with you, kind of your background, your years of experience and industry related participation, please.
I have a little PTSD from it. I think you should start with Jeremy. I'm good. I'm kidding. That was not a PTSD. That was not meant to be offensive to PTSD sufferers. Anyway, hello everybody. I cannot see the social media chat, but I heard you mention Sarah, so I'm sure that's our girl Sarah. Hello. And I tell you right now, my mom is watching. I'm super excited because she's like, what is this thing? So, hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Mom, that's your adopted son down there. I bet you didn't know that. So I am, this is my open line for every presentation I do. I'm sure everybody's heard it a million times already. I am 30 years in this business. I started when I was 10. And I'm going to keep saying that until it's time to, until I get older and I can't really pull that off anymore. But, started out as dispatcher, worked my way up, trainer, supervisor, training coordinator, director for a medium-sized agency. And now I'm in my 4th week at Cobb County Emergency Communications. Yay, we are Cobb 911. And it's a very large agency, allotted staff of 144 personnel, around 800,000 calls a year. So it is a change for me, and I am constantly on the go, and I absolutely love it. But I feel bad too because I feel like I've been depriving some friends. I didn't been depriving some committees out there, so I'm working out my groove. I'm getting there.
How dare you?
I know. I haven't
I'm joking.
There to great sessions yet, but I'm working on it. I'm working it into it's still there, but
that's excellent.
Thank you.
Jeremy, how about you?
So background wise, started out in public safety back in 1989, 1990 timeframe. Got into the emergency communications business in 2003. Started my public safety communications career with the emergency communications department up in Rochester, New York. Spent about 15 years there. Started out as a police dispatcher, became a dispatcher 2 shortly thereafter, which is police, fire, and EMS. And then became a shift supervisor to that for 5 or 6 years. And, I think for me, one of the reasons why, I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to kind of move up within that particular location, but I wasn't really sure where the profession would take me. And it wasn't until I had actually gone back, finished my associates, finished my bachelor's degree, and got accepted into the Naval Postgraduate School graduate master's program that I met this really great group of people, and they were really just motivating me to really kind of go further and do more. And shortly after graduation, I came back and just started throwing some feelers in the water to see what was out there from a leadership standpoint. And shortly thereafter, I got an offer from Springfield, Massachusetts to come down and be their next Director of Emergency Communications. So I think it was January of 2018. I started with City of Springfield, Massachusetts. I was down there for a few months by myself. The family joined me in September of that year. So prior to that, I was doing the commute back and forth on the weekends. And I was there for about almost 2.5 years before I threw the line in the water again and said, I kind of want to see what else is available. And this opportunity came up here in New Jersey, and came down, had a couple of different interviews. Things went very well. And I started here just in time for the pandemic, April of last year. And, we had just really kind of gotten things in line. Well, I should say as in line as we could have for 2 months into the pandemic back in Springfield, Massachusetts. I came down here and I was able to kind of use a lot of what we had planned and worked out up in Springfield here. And my deputy director, Keely Heyman, who's incredibly awesome in every way, she was the interim director. Prior to my arrival, she had already put a lot of these plans together, and I just came down and we kind of melded and brought everything together. And here we are a year and 2 or 3 months later. Great group, very supportive executive board that I report to. Awesome public safety partners. If you follow me on social media, you'll see I'm always giving credit where credit's due to the folks that take care of our people, and just an awesome group. Much like Melissa, awesome experience, and it's been great.
That's awesome.
Jeremy and I have a really funny connection, right? So we both worked in New York, and I was down here in Orange County, and he's up here. We never met, but we around the same time frame, and we would see emails, maybe the APCO forums with his name. I've seen his name for years and years and years, and I'm sure he's seen mine. And it wasn't until I took the leap to come down to Georgia, to Roswell, and he took the leap to Springfield, that we actually met. So it was so bizarre. And we kind of met in that director circle, if you will. And then we went to the Certified Public Safety Executive class together. And meanwhile, we had already had some conversations connected on social media. But then that's where that we realized that we were brother and sister from another mother, if you will. We just kind of went from there, and we both had the same.
It's important to say, too, that Melissa mentioned CP06 is the best of all the CPs. Yes. I just want to get that out of the way.
The best. Yeah. So
that is.
No,
go ahead.
No, you.
Well, I was going to say, so with your history and everything, working together and then meeting and doing the class and everything, is that how kind of this session came about? That was going to be one of the first questions is, how did all of this come about, to be co-presenters, to be doing a session like this, and giving that director's perspective on just cultivating this organizational culture?
So go ahead, Jeremy. I saw you wanted to talk. Go ahead.
My wife's watching. She'd be like, "Yeah, he always wants to talk."
I noticed that, Heather.
I'm relatively certain I can speak for Melissa when I say that one of the things that really motivated us to really do this in previous sessions is that we've both worked in settings where, from a leadership standpoint, and we're not naming anybody right now, we're putting it out there. Life deals you a variety of different experiences. And I think on a professional level, even before I joined the public safety arena, we've all had those bosses that really have just been absolutely incredible, life-changing, influential leaders, mentors. And then we've had those that just haven't met that bar. And really I think what Melissa and I really wanted to do or accomplish with this was let people know, life truly is too short to tolerate a situation that is anything less than positive when it comes to your work environment, especially in a situation like this where we're working in public safety. It's high stress. We can do all the yoga in the world. I'll give props to the yoga that's out there, but it's, there's a lot of other things that have to happen in order to make the work environment as beneficial as possible. So that was really the motivation, I think, for this particular session, was to let people know, number one, you're not the only one that's experiencing these situations. And number two, there are lots of different opportunities out there, lots of different leaders in this space that strive to do things at a much higher level. That's not to say for a moment that Melissa and I profess to be perfect in any way. We're both absolutely learning. Every day is a new day for us, and we like to read a lot of books. Some of you may have seen my book of the week thing that I do, but I do that because I know I'm not perfect. I know I don't have all the answers, and I want to try to learn from those that are doing it. And that, again, was really the motivation for why Melissa and I want to do this. We wanted to get the word out and just encourage people. Ask those questions. You know, if you have questions about how we moved up or why we did what we did, that's what we're here to answer for you. And we really want to lead by example and make this profession one that people want to stay in.
That what we had experienced was so real and so genuine. And we hear when other people ask us, like, well, gosh, how did you know when it was time to leave? Or what, you know, how did you develop the courage to just make that leap? And we're able to answer some of those questions. And that it also goes around to networking and having each other. Jeremy and I bounce things off of each other all the time. And we don't judge each other as far as like, well, you know, you're in a director role, you should know this. That's not, you know, we need those different perspectives. I just did that with my friend Latoya. I don't know if she's watching, but Latoya Mraz from Chicago, Illinois. I did that with her earlier. I mean, that's how you build those networks. And that's how you get perspective. That's how you get ideas. Jeremy motivates me with his social media posts where he calls, you know, like it's his own brand that, you know, he started the Book of the Week Club, which I love because it gives me ideas on what leadership book I should be reading next and vice versa. It's like all a great big circle. So for anybody out there who is in a difficult work experience situation, and they're not feeling the purpose and they're not feeling the motivation any longer, I really encourage you to do what Jeremy said and start really thinking about your own professional development, taking charge of your own professional development and not waiting for anybody to do it for you. Jeremy went to the Naval Postgraduate School. I went to get my bachelor's first and then my master's recently, which I finished up during COVID. And with 911 industry specific topics, I didn't wait for anybody to say, hey, you want to do this? That was what I wanted to better myself, mostly to better the industry and the people in the industry. So I encourage you, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's my favorite motto from Carrie Lorenz in her book, Fearless Leadership. Feel the fear and do it anyway. It can be done and you can do it.
What was your aha moment? What was that moment that happened where you had that fire where you didn't care anymore? You were just going to do what you were going to do for you.
Gosh, I had a couple of them, honestly. I had a couple of them. I think one of the biggest, even though I was already in a director role, one of the biggest ones was when I realized that I was also facing a situation that I felt wasn't supportive of my values and my purpose. When I went to CPE with Jeremy and all the others, Tyrell Morris, Dominique Curry was in there, Robbie McCormick, Rhonda Broadus, they were such, Steve Lease from APCO, there were such incredible people, for very diverse group as far as professional development and professional backgrounds in my CPE class. And I was so motivated to be like, you know what? Wow, this one did it, that one did it. I can do it too. And that was really it. And that's my Cobb County team. If you're watching, that's why I'm here. and that was the other thing. I'll say this real quick. Anything that I pick up like that, and I know Jared's the same way. Now I'm so motivated to pay it forward. So I already started talking to my team members this week about a pathway for leadership classes, which they haven't had a lot available to them before. So we're talking RPL, E&P and the CPE course, things like that. So, I mean, I want others to be able to experience what I experienced and have the courage and to move forward, because it can be done. We've done it. So.
Excellent. What about you, Jeremy? What was your aha moment before we get to this first question here in organizational culture?
Yeah, for me, I do a lot of free writing on the side, or maybe not as much as I used to, but and Ricardo, I'm sure you and I were talking prior to the session today about all the different technologies and mediums that you use, but one of the ones that I put things out on is something called medium.com, which if you haven't looked at that, there's people can author and do all kinds of stuff. But I was writing this one thing on National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week once, and the importance of recognizing your people. And kind of during the course of writing that, I started thinking back to, one of the first real opportunities I had working in a business-related field, which was for a now, I don't know, semi-defunct company called Radio Shack. But it was my first real job. And I remember I went in there fresh out of high school. I was in college. I had no aspirations really to do anything at that point. But I went in there. I got hired for the, that winter, the holiday selling season, right, when they bring everybody in and then they get rid of you in January. I did absolutely nothing, like October, November, December. I did nothing. I did no credible sales. But the guy that was my manager at the time, a guy by the name of John, he could have very easily in July or in January of the following month, when they started cutting everybody, he could have very easily said, this guy didn't produce anything. But instead, even with my piss poor attitude at 18, 19 years old, whatever it was, he kind of effectively took me under his wing and said, look, that there's, I know this isn't what you really want to do, or maybe it's not your long-term goal, but why not make the most of it while you're here? And over the course of the next couple of weeks, we started talking about some different things. I started trying some different selling things, those kind of things. But the important thing was, here's a guy that really didn't have to spend any time with me at all and could have very easily shuffled me off. And he spent this much time with me. I mean, literally just a minute amount of time. And before I knew it, I mean, I was loving the sales thing. I wanted to be number one in all the programs. I wanted to do all these great things. And I thought about how good that made me feel, and how here was an opportunity where somebody in a leadership position could have tossed somebody aside and said, you know what, maybe there's something here. And they spent time with that person. So fast forward multiple years, when I didn't get that experience in other professional situations where I was trying to move up and I really just wanted to be mentored, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be for my people right now and for my team members. If there's a future here in the 911 industry for them, I want to be for them what John was for me. I want to be the one so that they can say, 10, 15 years down the line, hey, you know what? I didn't always agree with what this guy said, but he had my best interest in mind. And I feel like I'm here as a result of his efforts. So that's the big thing for me is just really wanting to be that. And all those things that I didn't get as I was growing up and I was moving up in the business, I want to be able to do that for our folks. And I want to show people that there's definitely a career path in this industry.
Damn.
I love that. I've always loved that story. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's good. From a lot of the episodes that I've done, and doing roundtables like this, I find that there are a lot of experiences that we have that lead us to do certain things, whether it be a trainer, supervisor, or whichever, because maybe when we were going through a few of those things, we went through some shit for it, and we want to move forward and we want to build so that some of those don't have to go through that crap, and they don't have to search for a resource or not have a resource, at all whatsoever. So discussions like this, this is good. And to hear stories like the both of you shared, that is awesome, because, what you're doing comes from, such a genuine and authentic place, because you're doing it from your experience, right? So this is awesome to be able to do this. So when you think about organizational culture, one of the first things that you had here for your session that you talked about was what do we perceive as being progressive, inclusive, and positive? Melissa, if you want to start.
I think it goes to what you just said, is being authentic and genuine. So I was advised before I got into Cobb County recently. I got a lot of advice before I took this leap over to a much larger agency that said, sometimes you're a little too kind, and maybe you want to go in there with a little bit more authority and set that tone right off the bat. And I kind of, I take all the feedback and I kind of analyze it a little bit and sleep on it and stuff. And then, I got up the next day and I'm like, no, that's not who I am. I mean, I'm a genuine person, and I think it's okay to be authentic with your staff and get out there on the dispatch floor and get engaged in some of the conversations. During the pandemic, for example, talk about being inclusive and being positive. It was important that they knew that they were not alone and that I shared in some of their fears, but ultimately, and I knew that because I am their leader and we're a team, I knew that we were going to be okay. And I knew that if they saw that from me, that they were going to be okay. So, and then during the civil unrest, I've also heard people say that, you can't have those conversations on the floor, but those, it's too politically incorrect and you can offend some people. And I also disagreed with that. And I was inspired by, I cannot remember which session it was. I think it was something that Rapid SOS may have sponsored, where Tyrell Morris and Karima Holmes were talking. And I was also inspired to let them know too that I've been out there having those conversations about the social injustice. And, we talked about George Floyd a couple of times. And, I said to one of the supervisors, that as long as you're facilitating this conversation and it doesn't get extremely negative to the point where people are being disrespectful of one another, they need to know that they're being heard and that you care about what they have to say. And if there's something that you can do to help their feelings along, then you're going to do that. And from what I understand, the feedback I received was it just meant so much. I mean, I wasn't looking to make an impression, just for ego wise, but I was just looking for them to understand that we do empathize with what they're going through as far as with COVID and the civil unrest and watching all these protests unfold and, worrying about your officers and yet worrying about your family. I mean, there was just so much in the last year or two. But between all of that, like Jeremy said initially, we've been through the positive and negative cultures growing up in this career. And now we're in a position to make sure that negativity doesn't happen and that we foster an environment that's positive, whether that mean pizza parties or bringing in donuts for your staff because you happen to be passing by Dunkin' Donuts today. I did that today, FYI. Well, it's just, let me just be kind to my staff because they just have enough, they have enough. We don't pay them enough. They don't get enough days off. We're short-staffed. We're understaffed. You have to do something instead of sitting back in that office and saying, oh, well, suck it up. And, we laughed in the beginning of this presentation because Jeremy had to run out of our presentation, but there's the Leadership 101 on positive organizational culture right there. If he stayed in that session and let his people just, even though he probably knew his people could handle it, he needed to be there to show himself. And I mean, so his priority was absolutely correct. And abandoning me in the middle of that session.
I abandoned both of you. I knew Ricardo was there.
Oh, that's awesome. But no, that's very well said. I know that when I was in dispatch, I always appreciated when my deputy director or director would come in and even just simply to say, does anyone need to use the restroom? And we're like, yes, yeah. Like, thank you, and coming in and just sitting there and running kind of, the same thing that we're doing because the both of them came from the chair from where we were. And I remember when we found out that they were being moved up into those spots, it felt good. It was like, yeah, we've got one of our own, in there, and this is going to be good. It was more the deputy director who would come in because the director was going around and doing, all these meetings and everything with, the rest of the county and the other department heads. But, the deputy director would come in and, either say that or, hey, taking orders, I'm going to go and, I'll go get you guys some food or whatever it is that is going on. Even just that, was really good. I've got a comment here. I had put the question in the comments as well. I wanted to see what the rest of the audience would say too. And I've got a comment in here that says, I think it is important to let them know they are appreciated and all shifts need to be included in that. So often night shift is forgotten at most agencies. I worked midnight shift for pretty much the whole time. There was only about a 3 or 4 month stint where I was working mornings, but that would happen. We would get to the end and we would be relieving and you just see like the boxes Like, what happened? And then they would say, well, this was going on. You guys didn't save us anything. Like, man, that sucks. So, but, sometimes it would get saved, and that always felt good.
Yeah. One thing that there was always a joke in Roswell with my staff that they never thought that I slept, which wasn't true because I did sleep. My mom's watching. She can probably tell you I do sleep. But if the dog got me up at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and then I looked at my phone, or if I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, for me, I start work at that point. I'm checking emails and I'm responding to them. They never thought I slept because my motto was, even though I'm not present, I'm always present. And, I checked the shift report and I saw what kind of calls that went on. If there was a difficult call, and made sure I reached out to the dispatcher. Because again, knowing that night shift, our day starts at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And we try and get them to understand that sometimes it is really hard when, the council members or the governing body wants to see us during the day and, to make time for them at night. But they always knew that even though I wasn't there, I was there with them. And so, and it helped.
No, that's good. And for Jeremy, building on, to this question, how are some of these attributes achieved, and how long did it take for you all? And I guess just looking at that, what are some of those points? We already mentioned a couple of them, being kind, just saying thank you. Those are like the most easiest things. And it's crazy that something so easy and small, though, it just makes everyone feel so good. That's awesome. It's always good.
Yeah, and I maintain that, especially if you're somebody that's an up and comer in this industry, this profession, and you're looking to move up into, it may be into a secondary or a higher end dispatch role, a supervisor role, deputy director, whatever it happens to be. But I maintain, at least in my experience, and again, as a director, almost 4 years of experience as a director, I think the thing that really, for me, makes me effective in the role, at least in my opinion, is I look at the things that really made me feel like a second-class citizen previously, in the way that the leadership team or management may have been treating us or not treating us or not involving us in things. And I wholeheartedly believe that if you think about how those things made you feel back then, safe assumption that your people right now, if you did the same thing to them, would probably feel very much the same way. So anytime that I have a situation come up where, my knee-jerk reaction might be to do this, I take a moment to pause a little bit and think about what is this action going to do? What is it ultimately going to lead to if I go this route? Now, granted, we don't have the luxury of being able to make those decisions with that much thought. A lot of times that they're split-second things. But at this level, at an administrative level, many times we do have that luxury. And that's why, you get into the habit of doing things a certain way for many, many years. And it's surprising how quickly you can fall right back into those bad habits if you don't catch yourself. Yep. And we could do a whole session and Ann Camaro, Liz Belmonte, Adam Tim, and myself, we did a session at an APCO about what a toxic work environment, the impact it has on you and on your family. And we did a study. I know that you've had Ann on before and she's talked about the study that we did, but we know that those toxic work environments not only impact us on a personal level, but it extends to our families, our friends, and so on and so forth. So without diving too much further into that, what I really try to do now is really think from the perspective of my team members. When I come in and you were talking a little bit about the overnighters, we work 2 12s here. And it's nice because I come in the morning, I get to say hello to the crew that came in at 6 a.m. And then when everybody leaves at 6 and the overnight crew comes in at 6, I see all of them. So every single day, first thing I do when I come in is I walk out on the floor, I say hi to everybody. And before I leave at night, I say hi to the off or to the oncoming crew. But the importance of that is, as managers, as leaders in the space, we shouldn't only be present when elected officials are around, when there's something big going on. People want to know that you've got their back all the time. I think if I did not walk in one of these mornings or walk in before leaving, they'd be like, something wrong, because it's become that customary. And, I worked in settings where we didn't get that. And the only time you saw the boss was if you screwed up or if something big was going on, or there was some elected official there. And I know how much that bothered me. And I'm absolutely doing everything in my power to make sure that that never happens here or anywhere else that I'm at. And that's the recommendation that I would give to somebody that's looking to move up. Think about the things that really bothered you. And it doesn't even need to be a 911. It can be any job that you had, a job that you left to come into 911. You left that job for a reason. And I can tell you right now, and we can't get into a long drawn out discussion about the generational side of things, but it isn't about what you pay people anymore. That's a part of it, but especially the younger generation, the whole work-life balance piece, people need to be happy in their jobs. They need to be happy and know that leadership has their backs, is supporting them, and figuring out what they can do to try to better them. I've got another situation with my folks out here. I have people that have come to me, they have aspirations, not even to get into law enforcement or fire, but just go off and do a completely different thing. And I'm like, hey, whatever I can do to help you with that, I'm here to help you with that, because in my opinion, if you're going to help somebody, I don't care if they want to be a basket weaver. You want to be the best basket weaver out there. I mean, I'm going to get you a book on basket weaving, and you're going to be the best basket weaver out there. But you know that I have your vested interest in mind while you're here. All I ask is while you're here, you give me 110%. But if I can help you fund school, if I can help steer you in the right direction to get a mentor or something, show genuine interest in your people, not just for what they do here, but for what they want to do on a personal level. And your people will appreciate you for that. That's what I try to do. With
that, we have to impress upon everybody that as leaders, we have such a great responsibility and privilege to make a positive difference in somebody's life every single day, whether it be simply going out to the floor, like Jeremy said, and saying good morning, learning their names. That's what I've heard recently in such a large center. Like, they can't believe the feedback I'm getting so far from my new staff is that they can't believe I'm taking the time to learn their names. And that's very important to me. Mm-hmm. That's my team right there. So learning their names, saying hello, saying thank you. You've heard over the years, maybe back in the day, there's like, oh, don't thank me, it's just my job. Well, you know what, that just doesn't fly anymore. Saying thank you is important, and that you did a good job, or I heard that call, because you're showing value to those who are doing the job. People-driven leadership, as Adam says, it's people have to come first. When people come first, everything else is stellar. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with pay at that point. It's those little tangible things. And with that, we also have a responsibility. I'm getting ahead of myself, I think, but we also have a responsibility to know what's going on in the industry, to, be networked with other 911 directors like Jeremy and I do. I mean, we tell people all the time, that, we talk about Within the Trenches, we talk about Now on Wonder Women, we talk about Tracy's podcast. I mean, there's we talk about Rapid Deploy, Rapid SOS. There is so much. We have a responsibility now to make sure that everybody knows that the industry is changing, that there are these things out there for them, these resources, the yoga for 911 now. I mean, it's our responsibility to help and teach and mentor that next generation of 911 leaders. And that's my goal and purpose. It starts with my staff, and then it just expands out in sessions like this.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And building upon that, as I say, building, because we're segueing into building your brand. So there's kind of a few pieces to this. So, and I'm going to put the question in the comments as well, but why is professional branding important? And this also goes along with, this organizational culture where on social media as well, creating an identity for your team and organization. So why is this important? Jeremy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll speak to identity for the organization itself. One of the first things that I did when I arrived in Springfield in Massachusetts was, built a Facebook page, build a Twitter page, and really, a lot of you probably know where I'm going with this, but we constantly talk about 911 being, behind the scenes. Nobody really knows what we're doing, and unless something bad happens or something gets screwed up, you genuinely don't hear about what 911 does unless, maybe something real good happens. So my motivation behind putting up those social media channels, behind creating a website where one previously didn't exist, was to start bragging about the great things that our people do on a daily basis, not only in support of our public safety partners, but also in helping out individual citizens. There's a lot of things that obviously we can't get into the details of what happened with particular things, but anytime you have an opportunity to recognize the efforts of your people, and don't come up with any preconceived notions about what is noteworthy and what's not, because a lot of people, that's the thing that really kind of turns people's stomach in this business, is they think that even the small things that they're doing just don't really matter. And if we as leaders in this space can figure out a way to celebrate those opportunities, the small ones, the large ones, whatever they happen to be, and let the public know just how critical they are. I mean, that's a big piece of that. But that's what I did when I got to Springfield. And of course, when I arrived at Mountain Valley, I started to put the wheels in motion on that as well. And we have an incredibly active social media presence, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We put the website together, but that is really there not only to inform the public and tell them about what we're doing. It also gives us an opportunity to brag about what our public safety partners are doing and how they've been helping the community. When we go out and do community events, we put those things on there as well. So it's absolutely hypercritical to not only recognize the efforts of your people, make sure that you're checking with them before you post things on social media, because I know that's a big thing for some folks. So I always make sure that I do that. But more importantly, we know that staffing is a challenge across the U.S. for this business. What a great way to really get out there and talk about the great things that are going on. We see so much negative today when it comes to public safety and things that are happening. But if we can throw more positives into the mix and see people seeing that, it's going to create a genuine interest on the people that might have otherwise been thinking, I don't want to be a part of that. If I can create some interest and have somebody look in there, start clicking through the photos, see how we're having a good time. National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, the fire department, the police department, EMS coming in and working with us. It's just a great thing. That's really the identity piece for me. One of the other things I did internally in here when I got in, the walls were pretty much bare. I joked with my deputy, Keely, when I came in. I'm like, we need some pictures or something. I'm looking around, there's like nothing there. So I've got, I know I've got pictures of it somewhere, but if you look, actually it might be on our website. I've got like I think it's a 6 foot by 4 foot copy of our shield that a company did for us, and I've got it mounted right on the wall. So when you walk in, you see it. People that are working for you need to know that not only that they're working for your organization, but that there's an identity associated with it. Mm-hmm. Fire department, police department, and EMS, they're constantly getting accolades for all the great work. And trust me, they do excellent work. But we do great work too. And it's up to us to make sure that we're recognizing our people and getting the word out about that great work.
Excellent. Melissa, the same question, but also to add to that, family involvement in agency activities.
Well, I'm gonna tell a story about Jeremy about family involvement. Jeremy said his lovely wife Heather is watching, so I'm gonna give her a huge shout out here. First off, with regards to social media, Jeremy is completely on point with regards to the company, the agency social media page. But we've also kind of turned that into our personal pages as well. We share a lot of maybe not very, very personal things anymore. We share a lot about 911 industry related topics on LinkedIn, on Facebook, especially LinkedIn, that is just so important to share from different vendors about the new technology and innovation stuff that's going on out there. But for me, I always like to see what Jeremy's doing in his agency, because I'm like, son of a gun, well, look what he's doing over there. I got to do this over here. So we have a little silent, healthy competition. So one year I was working out what kind of Christmas gifts I was going to get for my staff, and I was all proud of myself and everything. And the next thing I know, I see Jeremy post that he and his awesome wife, Heather, who he calls the queen, she is a queen to put up with him, but I digress. He picked up this post that he and Heather are making dinner for his staff for Christmas. And I'm like, well, son of a gun, why didn't I think of that? So, you know what? I also really loved the fact that he got his family involved and they went to the center. And then I saw recently, Jeremy, that your daughter, I think it was, bought you that right there in the back. I mean, that's really getting your family involved, sharing the information. My mom is watching right now. So, I mean, that's getting your family involved, sharing the social media posts and stuff that it's all getting the word out. And I'll never forget this. Quite a few years back, Ricardo, I'm going to give you a shout out for the social media also. So quite a few years back when the hashtag I am 911 movement started, I was also obviously so moved by the stories that were coming out. And I told you that we've talked about this before. That's really when I really think that you hold a lot of credit for some of the industry changing in a positive direction by launching that movement, because it spread like wildfire. And I will never forget one of my family members, after I shared the album, and it had 300 posts at that point. And I know that was very early on. Mm-hmm. And she was reading some of them, and she contacted me, and she's like, I just had no idea. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, I know. And it's not something that you can necessarily go home and talk about, but that's when I started seeing the industry change. And that's why it is important to start really getting family involved and sharing that stuff. So yeah, I laughed with Jeremy with the Christmas post, because this Christmas I got to see what he does now.
I got to one up a little bit, but I just wanted to add to what Melissa said about I am 911. I can remember early on, Ricardo, after you started that, and for a while I was all of Congresswoman Torres's post about 911 Saves Act and those kind of things. I was including I am 911 in each one of those, and you talk about a cross branding situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had people, what's the one thing we always hear as people that work at 911? What's the worst call you've ever heard, or what's whatever, and you think back, and I think we're able to block a lot of that stuff out. But the reason we block it out is specifically why the I am 911 movement is out there. Because a lot of people don't realize the type of things that we listen to on a daily basis. They can pie in the sky it and be thinking about those things. And the fact that we very rarely, if ever, have any closure associated with that. So you look at what I am 911 is doing or has accomplished in relation to what we're trying to do with 911 Saves Act, and even the states that have already transitioned into recognizing 911 professionals as first responders, and that list continues to go up. I'm super proud of the fact that New Jersey is as progressive as it is and really moving in a positive direction with that effort. But there's so much more work to do. That's why the branding side of it, the I am 911 side with 911 Saves Act, and putting these things out on social media, that not only shows that you're including and acknowledging the importance of that particular movement with what you're doing, but it also, you could potentially have somebody looking at one of your posts that's never looked at one of your posts before and clicks on that hashtag and goes in and sees all the other stuff and then watches a video or listens to a story. And that's really the differentiator. That's where somebody can look at something like that and say, I had no idea they had to do this. And that's why it's become so critical for that and for other missions to be out there and to keep delivering that message on a regular basis.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you both. I appreciate it more than you know. When I had first put that out there, I had hoped that a few people would share, and a lot of people shared it, and it was good. There was definitely a shift that happened, and thank you. That's really cool.
Little side note, I just wanted to let you know that I have started sharing Dare to Be Great DTBG4. So, I don't know.
So,
you never know.
Before we get to the next question here for the continuation of this session, and we're going to go over a little bit, and that's going to be fine because there is more information here that I definitely want to get to. But what I was going to do, man, was I found a clip. And I found a clip from A New Hope, and I was going to do something with it.
That's right. I added that to the tagline.
Oh boy.
Yes. Just I was going to do one and put it out there, and I was like, oh, I'll wait, and we'll see. Oh, that is amazing. I've seen that a lot. There was I went back into some of the sessions and I saw that in the comments, and I thought, oh, that is really cool.
No pressure, Ricardo. No pressure.
We'll see what happens. As we continue, and we're looking at personal experience and all. The both of you kind of already talked a little bit about your past work experiences and how it is kind of helped shape the both of you as a leader, but, what can be learned from a bad or toxic work experience? Like, the dangers of settling.
I talked a little bit about this in the actual Dare to Be Great session when Jeremy abandoned me.
You're never going to live that down.
He's really not. So I did experience that. And, the first instinct is to just run and say, I've had it. I can't do this anymore, and just run. But thanks to some wonderful support from a lot of people, from my family, from the, colleagues and stuff, like friends like Jeremy and others, and going through CPE, there was just a lot of support that I knew that I just couldn't make a rash decision. And there was a time limit that I had given myself to see how it could improve, how, like, where was the responsibility on me at that point to try and improve communications or improve the environment? How would that abandonment look to my people, because I was being selfish, and I just couldn't do that. I couldn't go and let my team suffer because I just didn't want to handle it. So that really wasn't the answer. However, I did give myself a time frame, and I was grateful that I really stuck it out and kind of, just figured out a way to work through it. And it actually made me a better leader. It really did, because, one of the things I said in my interview with Cobb County, when, that final question is, why should we hire you? And one of the things I had said, one, because I was a telecommunicator. I worked my way up from frontline telecommunicator to dispatcher. I've experienced the officer-involved shooting. I've done tactical dispatch. I've done this. I've worked for a great boss. I've worked for a bully boss. So there's, I've had that experience. It turned me into a better leader because I recognize it more. I became more resilient. I realized what I can handle and what I also won't put up with. So it was a good experience. So my advice in that situation is, don't run. Make a sensible decision, and also don't be laying blame, and look at yourself and what you can do to make the situation better. If not for that person, I don't mean for that person. You're not responsible for that person, but I mean for yourself. Because one of the things that I try to live by is life is 10% what happens, 90% how you react to it. I always try and get it wrong, but life is 10% what happens, 90% how you react to it. And how you react is really going to set the pace for how the rest of your joy is going to, come out, or however you're going to experience it. I know that didn't make sense. I'll look a sense right then, but how you react is just super important. I mean, that's your worth, your value, your self-worth is not worth diminishing because of somebody else's actions. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I can compare a little bit, not so much the leadership part. However, I had a situation once where, and this was months back that this happened. I actually did this as a session at a virtual event, but I was talking about the same thing, the choice that you make in your reaction. I was involved in a minor fender bender, and kind of laughed about it because what can you do at the moment? We were both okay. The driver of the other vehicle was fine. I was fine. But I remember the conversation later on after it all happened. I was just kind of laughing, and I thought, man, what are the odds? And I remember my brother saying, I'm surprised you're not more mad about this, man. Like, your car is kind of new still, and this guy hit you. And I said, yeah, but we were fine. I said I could have chosen the path to be pissed off, and it would have changed that person's reaction as well. Yep. But instead I chose a different path and choice to just, be cool, stay calm, ask that person if they're okay. They were okay. And everything was fine. It's the same thing, when you're taking a phone call and you have a caller calling in. It's all in your reaction and as well as your tone, that's going to affect and impact that phone call. And just like you're saying, in comparison to that story, it's in that reaction, right? And how you respond to certain things that is 50-50. It can go good or bad, but it's all in how you respond to it.
It can, for sure. I just want to add that I was glad that I did stick it out because that situation worked itself out.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it turned into a very positive situation for me in the end. So
now, Jeremy, I want to go to you for this next part because we want to look at coaching versus mentoring. So what are the differences? And I want to put this into the comments as well, because I want to see what the audience says about this and what they think on, the differences are, coaching versus mentoring.
Yeah. So I think when you ask different people that question, you're going to obviously get a variety of different answers. But for me, coaching is much more in the moment. It's something that, and anybody can be a coach. I mean, anybody that is proficient or in any way skilled in a particular thing or topic, if they see somebody else is struggling with it, they can go in and provide that coaching and really address it in the moment and try to correct that behavior and maybe help that person out. Whereas mentoring, in my opinion, happens to be something that's much more long-term. It's a situation where, if I recognize that somebody in my charge wants to go out, we'll go back to the basket weaver situation again, right? Maybe on my free time some night when I'm sitting at home, I look up basket weaving and I see that there's a school for basket weavers, and I come in and say, hey, you're talking about basket weaving. Here's this great new school you can go to that specializes in it. Showing a genuine interest in your people, giving them, access to magazines or white papers or whatever it happens to be, sending them a web link here or there. The mentoring process is ongoing. It's a never-ending situation. So when you have folks that have identified to you that they want to do a certain thing or accomplish a certain thing, whatever it happens to be, you're the best mentor when you're not just taking that information and dismissing it. You're thinking about that in the back of your head while you're putting your budget together, while you're filling up your coffee, while you're placing a phone call, because you're thinking about all of your different team members and what they're truly doing. There's some people that will come in and they'll say that they have a team and they'll call them team members, but they really don't know much about them. And again, I'm almost a year and a half, not quite a year and a half into my tenure here. I think I've got just about everybody's names down. I don't have quite as many team members to remember as Melissa does, so she's got her work cut out for her. But it is a challenge. But when you go in and you know somebody by name, you know what's going on in their family life for as much as they want you to know, asking about the kids, those kind of things, showing a genuine interest in what's going on with them. That's all part of the mentorship process as well. People want to know that it's not just come in, do your job and leave. They want to know that they truly are part of the family here, that they're coming in to serve a common goal. Yes, at the end of the day, we all have jobs to do, but if the boss, if the deputy, if other members of that group know that person wants to succeed in a certain area, even if it doesn't happen to fall within the realm of where they're working currently, there's still opportunities for you to mentor. So coaching for me, in the moment, mentoring, long term.
Perfect.
That's a great way to put it. I like that. It's a great perspective.
What are your thoughts, Melissa?
What Jeremy said.
That works.
Yep.
He said it perfectly. I agree. Mentoring. I mean, he's right. I mean, coaching somebody on how to maybe improve how they write a performance evaluation. This is great. You also may want to say this. I agree. That's coaching, and that's coaching in the moment. And I totally agree. We're so on par with that servant leadership style, mentoring others. I have to say, one of the things that is very, very important to me is legacy leadership. And that also goes along the lines of mentoring. It was something that when Adam was here teaching a class before he left the healthy dispatcher to work at Rapid Deploy, he was here like literally a month before everything shut down in COVID. And we had dinner. We were talking about leaving that legacy in your center. And he told me that he had experienced a center that really had a wonderful, positive organizational culture. And then their director had left. And then in 5 years, he just happened to check in on them, and they kind of went back to having a negative culture there. And I was just so obsessed with that information, like I just can't let that happen. And that means not just mentoring the person that's immediately below me or a couple of people below me. Like Jeremy said, that's everybody. And that's building that positive culture to make sure that you are leaving something better than where it started, and that's going to continue. And I was very clear and authentic and genuine with the staff. I'm talking about the folks in Roswell, to say that this is important for you all to carry on that positive organizational culture. You're now the mentors, you're the role models. You don't, because I'm like, you don't need me any, like, you guys are ready. It's okay. And this is what I want you to see, is that I have an opportunity and I'm moving on. And now you all have that same opportunity. And then, and I did see one of my staff members there move up into a role that I'm just so proud of her. And then I know she's going to build that next legacy in her own way. And it's just going to continue. So leaving a legacy in your organization is also a privilege, and it's also your responsibility as a leader. And we've seen so many times in maybe just not centers, just jobs itself, that you move on to the next. Are you working on a succession plan? Are you working on developing or mentoring somebody else to take over your role? I don't care. They'll have to do what they want when they leave. That just doesn't fly anymore. We have the responsibility to mentor that next generation of gladiators, of 911 leadership. So legacy leadership is super important and goes hand in hand with mentoring.
Ricardo, the one thing I wanted to add there, and I mentioned and I didn't coin the book of the week phrase, nor did I coin the process, but I definitely, I still do a lot of driving, and one of my latest reads, and I know Melissa's a fan of John Maxwell, but one of the latest reads that I've had with him, there was a phrase in there which I was initially going to give John Maxwell credit for, but as I understand it, I did a little bit, when you go to grad school, you're always asked to provide citable resources. So of course I had to go in, number one, to figure out if I was saying it correctly, and number two, to figure out whether John Maxwell was the actual guy. Well, John Maxwell apparently was not the guy that originally said this. It was Teddy Roosevelt. But I believe the phrase goes, people don't care what you know unless they know that you care. And I don't know if you guys have heard that. But when I heard that, I was like, that we watch these sessions. We go to Dare to Be Great. We go to conferences, national level. And I'm certainly guilty of this. I mean, we get up there and we want to just start spilling our guts out about all the great stuff that we've done and all these accomplishments. But how much time do we really spend thinking about what the audience, the people that are watching this session, the people that are watching Dare to Be Great, how much do we as leaders really spend thinking about what they're looking to get out of this? Is it just going to be another, blah, whatever, click, or are they really going to talk about it? And I think, for me, that's really why Melissa and I wanted to turn this particular session, well, the session that got interrupted by Mother Nature, but this session as well, we really wanted this to be that interactive experience. And I think there's going to be opportunities, Melissa and I think Ann we're going to be doing a session at APCO in San Antonio, which we're very excited about. But we're trying to kind of change these things up a little bit so that it's not just me and Melissa and Ricardo talking to you. Yeah. It's engagement. And Ricardo, I tune into a lot of your sessions, as you know, and I like to be your silent partner and kind of weigh in on stuff. But it's because I like getting involved and I like engaging the speakers and doing different things, because I know somebody out there is more than likely thinking what I'm thinking, or maybe they want to know the answer to it. That's really what this was all about. And I hope there's other opportunities for us to do more with this. I want to see up and coming leaders in our profession know that there's people out there like us. And it's not just, there's a lot of great leaders in this space. I don't want to start naming them because I'll inevitably leave somebody off, but there's a lot of folks out there like us that are go-getters, that really want to be progressive, that want to see our staff do well, and are not just sitting back waiting for the retirement bell to ring. Where there's too much to be done in this profession for us to have that attitude. One of the things that I've often been asked about is, why are you always the first or one of the first to implement new technologies? Like, well, I get a lot of offers for technology. I don't implement everything. I research it out, and then we do the value analysis on it, and we decide. But in my opinion, if there's something out there that's going to benefit not only my folks from a toolbox standpoint, but is ultimately going to save a life or prevent a serious injury, why wouldn't I implement it? Why do I want to be happy with the status quo? I don't want to turn this into a pontificating session, but that's effectively what I'm talking about. I want people to ask questions. I want them to be involved, and we want to help people move up within this profession and know that there is a future here for them, that they don't have to go somewhere else.
And that after Dare to Be Great, I had somebody message me on Facebook Messenger asking for some advice about her career path. And I was so moved by just the fact and humbled that she asked me for that. And that's exactly what Jeremy's talking about. If we can motivate even one person to build their brand and to develop themselves professionally and to have the motivation and courage and to, just overcome some of the challenges that they face in their center they want to be better leaders or they want to be a leader. It's what makes all this worth it. Totally.
I just want to share one quick story because I know we don't have all night for this, but I'm having fun. I think everybody's having fun. When I was up in Springfield, I had a member of my team come in and she walked in the door and I could tell that she was a little bit apprehensive. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? She goes, I just wanted to let you know that I'm leaving. I'm like, where are you going? Well, she travels a lot, with her boyfriend and stuff. They go all over the place. She goes, well, I'm going to be a flight attendant. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, what airline? I started asking all these questions. She's like, she definitely wasn't ready for me to be happy about the fact that she was. I think she was like ready for me to grab the coffee mug and throw it at her. And I'm like, I don't know, where are you going? What flight? I'll visit you, blah, blah. But she was taken aback because she really thought it was just going to be a punch to the face. I can't believe that you're doing this. You're leaving us. We were facing those same staffing challenges. But I basically told her, I said, I'm super excited for you. I know this is what you wanted to do. If there's anything I can do, if you need a letter of recommendation, because there's a process to become a flight attendant. If there's anything you need from me, let me know. I'm here to help. And she was just, and I know there's other people. I know Melissa would do that. Ricardo, if you were in the position, I know you'd do that. Mm-hmm. But this is the thing. Our people can't be afraid to knock on the door and come in and have a conversation. And a lot of folks that sit in our chair preach that open door policy. But do they really adhere to that open door policy? Exactly. The door's always open. Well, of course, I joked earlier because during our little, the door's locked. It's actually locked right now, but I got to go open it. But that's the thing. Create that situation by walking out on the floor when you get here in the morning and before you leave at night. Don't wait for something bad to happen or some big thing to happen. Be there for your team members when just the status quo is going on. When you're stopping to get coffee for yourself, grab a dozen donuts, or in Melissa's case, probably 12 dozen donuts for her people. Little things like that. And it doesn't have to be every day. I mean, write those handwritten notes. Melissa talked at one point about writing handwritten thank you notes. So I've tried to start doing that as well. We can all learn from one another. And we go to these sessions, we go to these national conferences, we go in there, and I know for me, I want to learn something new every day. And that's why I listen to these books on tape. A lot of times it's a yawn fest. Even John Maxwell, some of it was a yawn fest. But if you get one new idea out of a book, if you get one new idea out of a trade show or watching Ricardo's session or watching whatever, you get one new idea and you can implement that and make a change in somebody's life. You've done incredible things. And I think back to John, the great story. I said this was going to be a short story, right? I go back to John when I was at Radio Shack, and I wrote this great story, which you can still, if you want to read it, I like it. But I wanted John to read it, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to. I couldn't find him. I finally found him on Facebook. I don't know, 2-3 months ago. Now he's getting up there in years, but he got to read my story, and I'm not going to get too far into it because I'll probably get choked up. But he saw how I really felt about the situation, and I'm like, John, you don't know the impact that you had on me. Yep. And that's what I think about every time every time I want to get mad about something, or every time I want to have that knee-jerk reaction, I think about that, and I think about what John did for me and why he kind of defined the leader I am today.
And you know what? John did not do it to get any accolades or get any compliments, just like we don't do that to get any accolades and any compliments. I am seeing, I don't know how, Ricardo, but I am seeing some of these Facebook comments come through. I'm technology challenged, but I thank you guys for the positive comments, and I'm glad that you're feeling motivated and encouraged to get out there and find your purpose and to move on up. That's wonderful. I'm so excited to hear that. So,
well, here's a question then with a lot of people that are coming in here, and we're coming up to like the last like 3 or 4 main questions, and this is one of them because again, people are putting in the comments on some of them are looking to make that jump, going up the leadership ladder and everything. So it was part of this presentation as well, is making the hop from operations to administration. What were the challenges? Because I know that there's a couple people on here who have, thought about the same thing. What were some of those challenges when you were making the switch from operations to administration? And Melissa, we'll start with you.
Budget. Sorry.
What's the budget?
Budget. Whew. The challenge. Gosh. The challenge was learning those things that you don't see behind closed doors all the time, like budget. I mean, like that is definitely part of administration, and nobody really teaches you that growing up, or working your way up in the ranks as a supervisor. You don't really have anything to do with the budget. And then, as a deputy director, do you have something to do with the budget? Possibly. But then when it comes time to presenting to the governing body, like that's the director's responsibility, department head's responsibility. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? And then you might be faced with somebody who isn't in another position to actually teach you how to do it. Those things are very challenging, but, I have a book. I just have to go into this book. I have to recommend this book. Jeremy recommended some books. I'm going to recommend a book. I think it was APCO maybe 2 years ago. Carrie Lorenz spoke. She's the first female Tomcat fighter pilot, and she was amazing. And I was very encouraged by her story. And so I went out and I got her book, and it's called Fearless Leadership. And her story is amazing. That's where I get the whole feel the fear and do it anyway, because she faced challenges and she just didn't give up. And that's what I really encourage you to do when you go from operations to administration. One, absolutely everything that we've been saying so far, don't forget where you come from. Make sure you're still engaged on the floor and let your people know that you are their voice and you're always a part of operations. And then also be transparent and share the challenges that you're facing with administration. You know what? I want to go back to my people and say, or in a monthly supervisors meeting and say, this is what's going on with the budget process right now. We're talking about a raise but there are challenges faced there, and share that information, because one, there's the inclusion. People don't know what they don't know. And it starts to eliminate that line between operations and administration when people start to understand, when you start sharing some of that information. Now, that also might be a snore fest. Who wants to hear about the budget? But you never know how it would help somebody. And so I heard something recently, and I'm going to implement this eventually. And I think I do have some COB team members watching, so don't spill the beans, but I'm going to implement this in maybe the next 6 months after I get everything settled. I heard this recently that I'm going to implement a day with the director. And that's going to be for those who have aspirations to move on up. And it doesn't have to be a day. I mean, it could be more than a day, but literally arrange for them to do a little ride along with me and see those administrative tasks that I have to do. And I'll tell you a little secret. Some days it might just be spinning in my chair. So they have to hear all of it. They have to see all of it. Experience. I'm kidding. That's not true. Well, maybe sometimes. But anyway, So I'm really excited about that. And I got the idea from somebody who's not in 911, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit to say this is a great mentoring opportunity for people who have career aspirations of being a director. Whoever wants my job here, we're going to do a director with a day, or director for a day. So that there are challenges out there, but they certainly can be overcome.
That's awesome. That is an excellent idea. And in the comments as well, people are saying the same thing. Great idea. Amen. This is good stuff. For Jeremy, for you, how important was encouragement and empowerment in your leadership journey?
Well, I've already talked about John, and I think it goes without saying what kind of an impact he had on me. There were a few other leaders, none to the level of John. John from Radio Shack. I want to make sure I specify that. There were a lot of Johns in my life, but there were not many like that were really true drivers for that. And but what he instilled in me, he really created a situation where I almost learned a little bit of a degree of self-motivation, because when you're working in sales, especially in retail sales, it is very much dog eat dog. Now remember, this was back in the days before the internet was really prevalent, and for a lot of you kids on here, before the internet, there was a time before the internet when you actually had to go to the store to buy something. In fact, I started selling computers in the early 90s, and that's all right, I digress. I'm going back. But
Radio Shack in Montgomery Ward.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, but even though it wasn't in the public safety realm, there were absolutely lessons learned there as I moved up within the organization. I ultimately ended up becoming a manager of 3 different stores. But that whole empowerment piece, you talk about that. Managers that have really been, and leaders that have really been the most effective for me, are those that have given me a long leash and said, Jeremy, we trust that you're doing the right thing. We like your mission. We like your vision. We like the direction that you're going with this. And, we're going to follow your lead and see what's going on. Those kind of things don't happen overnight. So for those of you that are moving up within the profession right now, maybe you're thinking about that supervisor role. And to kind of dovetail back to what Melissa was talking about, when you make that transition from operations to administration, I would argue that one of the biggest things that you need to do is talk to the people who tomorrow will be reporting to you and say, look, don't put me in a position where I've got to be a bad person. Don't put me in a position where I have to be that guy, because we don't want to do that. Absolutely don't forget where you came from. And remember a lot of the trials and tribulations you had when you were in that seat. But literally overnight, you're going to go home on a Friday, and on a Monday, you're going to come back, you're going to be a boss. Now you've got a totally different peer group that you've got to work with. You've got a whole bunch of new policies and procedures you're going to have to learn and really start doing it. But there's still that relationship you have with the people that only a couple of days ago you were out there in the trenches working with. So it's important for them to understand you're going a different direction. You're taking it a next level. Hopefully they will decide to move forward or do other things as a result of seeing what you're doing. But that empowerment piece is huge. Empower those people that you now have suddenly become the supervisor for, to do what they need to do to take leadership roles in the front lines when they're handling different dispatch things. It could be, who's handling particular situations or tasks during a working fire or during an active incident of some type or a large scale event, whatever it happens to be. Somebody has to take the leadership role and kind of steer the ship in those situations. And it can't always be the supervisor. Take those opportunities that you have had in the past, meet yourself, to be empowered to do things and to kind of steer the ship, and extend that off to those that used to work with you and show, hey, look, I'm up here now. I'm doing the same thing for you that was done for me. This is that big, it's kind of that flow through, that follow through, right? We know how good it made us. We know how bad the bad things make us feel, but we know how good the good things make us feel. So try to spend some more time doing the empowerment, working with your folks to say, hey, I trust you. I know when I stood up, when I worked in Rochester as a supervisor, and for anybody from Rochester that's watching, I know I wasn't perfect all the time. I'm just putting it out there, because I can see some of them rolling their eyes. Here's Jeremy pontificating. I wasn't always perfect. I'll put it out there. I'm learning each day. It's a different thing. But it was funny, you knew when you stood up when a big event was going on, whether or not the people that were in that area were strong and really going to be hard hitters and you weren't really going to have to carry the torch for them, or whether some people needed coaching and needed a little bit more support. So when you get into those situations, you got a couple of options. Those strong people, you can turn around and say, hey, I really want you to take ownership of what's going on with the situation, try to help people out, try to cultivate that a little bit. If you don't have any of those people available, go down to the people that are a little bit weaker in that area and help them get to where they need to be, help them learn that. Don't make assumptions about what people know. It's just, there's so many, and they're just little things. They're not even big things. You don't really have to go crazy to empower people. But micromanagement, which is the opposite of empowerment, that's one of the biggest negatives for me, probably for Melissa, for any classic type A personality, or a lot of the folks that are in our line of work are type A by nature. We don't like being told what to do because we're always right all the time, right? But it's, we all shake our heads, we laugh, but, none of us like to make a mistake. We always want to be perfect. And when we make a mistake, there's nobody harder on ourselves than us, right? But take that opportunity to go down there, talk with the people. Hey, I recognize this happened. What can we do to make sure it didn't happen next time? This is all a part of that empowerment process. Involve them in the after action reviews or the hot washes. Have them talk about what happened. Roundtable it if you can. Don't make assumptions about what you think is going on the floor. Go out, talk with your people, try to cultivate that relationship, try to cultivate that conversation. It's going to return to you tenfold.
Now, I'm going to add something. I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to add just 30 seconds, maybe 60. If you are in a dispatch role or even a supervisor role, middle management or whatever, you have to know that the change starts right now. People are watching you. They watch what you do. You have to be approachable, and you do not have to be in a leadership position to be a leader. And so if you are, and I apologize, I am going to curse, but Ricardo did put that disclaimer out there. But if you're an asshole to your peers right now, and then all of a sudden you get promoted to a supervisor position, do you think they're going to respect you? They remember that you are being watched from right now. So choose kindness, choose your attitude, remember your purpose, and start remembering how you are being perceived and act accordingly.
Perfect. Now we're getting to the last two questions here. And I'm going to start with you, Melissa, on this one. What do you suggest for the individual who wants to advance or move up, but does not have an inspiring or supporting boss?
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's right.
I understand money can be an issue for some, but you have this, right? You have these roundtables, you have these networking opportunities. Again, that individual who contacted me after the Dare to Be Great virtual conference, perhaps she doesn't have a supportive leader, but I can be that supportive leader for her. So your mentor does not have to be within your agency. So, for the ladies out there, we have the 911 Wonder Women group, and there are loads of mentors in that group. We mentor each other every single day. The Humanize in the Headset, Ricardo, your Facebook page, there are mentors out there. And I guarantee you reach out to one or a couple of them, and they will assist you with moving up or advancing in the industry. I encourage you to look into classes. If you can fund them yourselves, that's right.
Exactly.
Don't. He's absolutely right. If you can fund some of these opportunities yourself, then I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. But Jeremy said it best. Don't settle.
Right.
Yeah.
And building onto that really quick for you, Jeremy, the same thing. And you're probably going to kind of add this already, but how do you keep up morale as a leader as well in this same piece that we're talking?
Well, to Melissa's point earlier about, if you're I'll say a jerk as opposed to the A word. But if you're a jerk to your people and you get promoted and tomorrow you think that's going to change, it's a lot easier to make that transition if you were genuinely good to your coworkers and the people than if you were a jerk and then you move into that particular role. But, I would say the same could be said for a culture situation. If you're going into a center or you're in a center where the culture is already having a difficult time, you really have to identify what the root cause of that problem is and find out whether or not you can be a change agent for that particular situation. Depending on the circumstances, it may be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for somebody to come in, even a brand new leader to come in and make a huge change. I mean, there's tons of stories and tons of books out there about CEOs and leaders that come into these companies that are failing in epic ways, and seemingly overnight they turn them into these profitable, incredible companies. Those stories are out there, but I would say that those are definitely that's the minority and not the majority of the situations that you find out there. It's even more critical in this particular situation, especially if you're going into a new setting, to sit down with your people. And Melissa, I think, is doing some of these things right now. I did that when I arrived in Springfield because I was in the middle of COVID. When I came down here, I couldn't do it the same way that I wanted to do. I couldn't have one-on-ones with my people. But the first thing I did when I got to Springfield, Massachusetts, is I sat down with each one of my team members. Now, not my leadership team members. I mean, I did sit with them, but I sat down with each one of them, took them aside and said, hey, what are the pros and cons? What's good? What's bad? What do we need to fix? Now, I did get some eye rolls. I did get some, okay, here's the next guy that just wants to come in. But you genuinely want to express to them, look, there's two ways we can handle this. You can either roll your eyes and say, I'm not going to do anything or affect any change, or we can try to work collaboratively to try to fix this situation and to address those issues. So number one, you have to identify what the issues are. Number two, if you're not in a position where you can affect that change yourself, you've got to try to align yourself with a leader in the space or a sub-leader in the space that can help steer the ship in that direction. And third and finally, I go back to don't settle again. You have to make the determination at some point. I was going to swear, but I'm not going to swear like Melissa.
Okay.
You're going to do something or you're going to get off the pot, one or the other. You're either going to stay or you're going to go. But I can assure you that in most toxic work environments, if you're in a situation where you're not getting fulfilling work, you go home at night, you yell at your husband, your wife, your kids, your friends, your relationships are being impacted, more than likely it's not going to get better unless there is a major structural or foundational shift in the way that operation is run. So you have two choices. You can stay there and tough it out and be miserable, or you can affect a positive change. One of the other things that I think Melissa and I started to talk about during Dare to Be Great 3, before we were so rudely interrupted, was the fact that she and I moved out of our spots in New York and went elsewhere. Now, not everybody is in a position to say, okay, there's an opportunity out in Los Angeles. I'm going to go out there and do something out there. But if you go on to Nina's website, if you go on to AFCO's website, log in and go into the career areas there and just get on the email list and start watching the stuff. There's tons of opportunities coming out there. But you have to decide how badly you want it. You have to make the decision as to whether or not, am I going to stay here and tough it out and deal with the bullshit? Or am I going to make an effective, positive change in my life and go somewhere and do something different? Am I going to dare to be great, to coin the phrase, right? Because you're not going to be great sitting in an environment where leadership is not going to promote your positive goals and what you want to do. And if you can't do that, you have to recognize it quick, or you're gonna get buried. And it's gonna harm you, your family, your friends, everything. Trust me, I treated my family horribly for many years. It was not intentional. I didn't know I was doing it. I know now that I was doing it. I know what caused it. And I said, anywhere I go, I will never allow the job to do that to me again. The minute I feel the job is doing that to me, I'll go somewhere else. I'll go be a basket weaver. I don't care. But I will not stay in a job where, number one, I'm not fulfilled by the work, and number two, I feel like I'm not appreciated. Life is truly too short.
Damn, I think I got a soundbite and clip there.
I know, right? That was fantastic, Jeremy.
Yes,
very well said.
Very, very well said. Thank you both for being on this round 21 of the Dispatchers Roundtable. Damn, this was such a good one. We went an hour and a half. It didn't even seem like it because there was so much good information. The audience was into it and really talking and adding more into it, and just people just learning. And man,
right.
Make sure you all share this, who is watching in the audience and those on replay, because this was an excellent one. I want to put your information up here, email and social media, so that anybody can be able to reach out to you. So let me add that here really quick. This comes from your from the presentation. So let me put this up here. There we go. So, for questions or anything like that, you can get a hold of Melissa or Jeremy. And like the both of them were saying, they are on social media and their emails are right there. And if you are looking forward to just more information, rather, for leadership and just so many more points, reach out to them. you can email me as well. I'll have my email up there. But again, this was excellent. Thank you both for being on. I mean, in the comments already, great round. Thank you so much. And people are talking. So thank you both.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks for the invite. Always a pleasure.
It was awesome. That's great.
You never know. You never know.
Dare to be great, y'all. Dare to be great.
That's right. Yes. Thank you again so very much. Again, for those who are in the audience right now, if you're watching on replay, make sure to reach out and definitely share the information here. So this was excellent. I'm going to bring this down here really quick, and then I will be right back here with the both of you if you hold on one moment. And for those who are watching, damn. This was an excellent round. Again, round 21 of the Dispatchers Roundtable. If you have any comments, questions, or if you have any topics for the Dispatchers Roundtable, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches podcast. If you're looking for any bonus material, you can check us out on patreon.com/WTT podcast. And for patrons only, and now that I have surpassed the majority of the virtual events that I've been working on and a lot of other projects that have been going on, all of the Dispatchers Roundtable, all rounds, as well as the open mic live sessions that I do, both live broadcasts, those are going to have audio versions, and that's going to go to patrons. So make sure to check that out there. Again, patreon.com/WTT podcast. And thank you so very much to the patrons. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy. And you can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. It'll be added to LinkedIn as well. And then for the flagship show Within the Trenches podcast, you can listen to that 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you in the next one tomorrow, Thursday, June 24th. It is Open Mic Live night, and I'm going to have a couple special guests with me. And if you've seen some pictures on my personal social media, you kind of have an idea who my special guest is going to be. So have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Cheers.